Good afternoon.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Chastity. This is Jeff Hood. You know me from Friday Night Football in the fall here on Q92. But today, I am sitting in for Marc McMain. We've got Marc out on assignment. I think I saw him out jogging out here on Lonnius Road, enjoying some of this beautiful sunshine.
I'm surprised you didn't see him on the hockey court. I'm
going to the Rock Lobsters game tonight, and I know he loves to play hockey, so maybe he'll show up and kind of crash the party and get on the ice tonight over there at Aikens Ford Arena. Yeah. Yesterday's show, Chastity, was fabulous.
Yes.
Bob Furr hosted. He had two executives from the Rock Lobsters, including the president of the organization. Yeah. And I go to Rock Lobsters game. In fact, we're going tonight. But I learned a lot yesterday about how they do their promotions and just kind of connect with the community.
I enjoyed it so much, and I learned so much. I cannot wait to go to a hockey game and do the claws up. I am all about it. So I've been doing the claws up since they left yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Well, tonight they play a game that was supposed to have been played on January 31st, but that was the day the snow hit our area, and they had to postpone it, and now that game will be played tonight at 7:05. I'm taking my grandson and son-in-law, and they're playing now, get this, the PD Ice Cats. From Florence, South Carolina. This is kind of their rival opponent. Because our grandson loves to go when they play PD because he said they have good fights. So he likes to watch the Rock Lobsters play the PDs.
The fights are exciting.
Yeah. So
a little intense, but
a little
makes it a little more edgy, I guess.
Well, over in Athens, where the Rock Lobsters are based, the UGA students are on spring break, and you can attest to that.
Yep. My son's home for spring break, although he's still doing assignments for school, doing some classwork type things. So I'm proud of him.
Awesome. Well, for those of us
focused.
For those of us that live over in the Athens area, I live in Oconee County, but I'm in Clark a lot. What does this mean to me? Less traffic, because most of the kids, 40,000 or so, are back home or at the beach or something. So if you need to go to Athens,
now is the
time this week until they all 40,000 cars come racing back down the highway to Athens.
That's good to know.
Sunday
I need to
afternoon.
make a Costco trip. So
yeah, there you go. Costco or Sam's or anywhere over in Athens. So let's get you caught up on a little bit of news. We're going to have a couple of guests we'll tell you about here coming up on the show. But in the news, let's do some local fun stuff.
Okay.
Did you know Morgan County's boys basketball, this is Morgan County High School's boys basketball team, is playing for the state championship this weekend? Saturday at 1 p.m. in Macon.
Okay.
How about that?
That's a big deal, yeah. Basketball. Ben actually was just kind of mentioning that on the high school sports minute. So.
Yeah. So my all my friends down in Morgan County, I went to high school there.
Oh, okay.
I'll be pulling for the Morgan County Bulldogs Saturday. They're going to take a big caravan of fans down to Macon. 1 o'clock Saturday. If you cannot make it to the game, it's going to be televised live on GPB, Georgia Public Broadcasting. You can get the rabbit ears out if they still make. I don't think that works anymore. You have to have digital signal. But you can, I guess, locally watch it on Channel 8, or you can stream it. But try to go to the game if you can. Now, Morgan County High School's baseball team is they are on fire. The season started 4 weeks ago, and they are off to a tremendous start, and they're ranked number 1 in the state.
Wow.
So
congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting to be a Morgan County High School sports fan this time of year.
So when's the last time that Morgan County, the boys basketball, made it to the championships? Has it been a
it's been probably 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
They in the 2010s, I'll call it, from like maybe 2011 to 2018. we were on a roll. Our boys won 4 or 5 state championships, and the girls won 1 or 2.
Wow.
So it's good to get back, to that level where they're back contending. And I really think our baseball team has a legit shot to win. If they can get it done this season, it would be the first ever baseball state title for Morgan County.
Oh, good for them.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Morgan County, last night I was in Madison at the Morgan County Republican Party meeting, and it's so good to engage and hear the speakers. And they had the former sheriff of Morgan County that was there that spoke, and he is now Robert Markley. He is now one of the 5 that's on the parole board in the state of Georgia that determines people that are incarcerated in prisons, and when they're up for parole, he's one of the 5 that makes the call on whether they should be released. But I learned something last night. Learned a lot hearing him speak. Do you know how many prisons there are in Georgia that hold these prisoners? And there's like 53,000 prisoners in these prisons scattered around the state that are either in for life sentences on death row, or maybe life, but with the possibility of parole. How many prisons do you think there are around the state?
Wow. With 53,000 inmates, that's a lot.
That
so
is.
I would say, 20?
93.
93.
93.
Wow.
Yeah. And I asked the former sheriff last night, well, what's the closest one to Madison? And he said, probably down in Milledgeville to the south. There's 3.
Jeez.
So anyway, it was you always learn things when you go to these meetings and talk to folks.
Yeah, that would be an interesting job to determine somebody's eligible for parole.
It would be.
Yeah.
And he kind of told us what they look for.
Okay.
There's different variables or factors, and that makes sense. Yeah. They want to be sure that they, I guess to simplify it, rehabilitated, that they won't be a menace to society and go back out and do it again. That's not my job. Yeah. And of course, they're not going to bat 1,000. And someone asked, like, what's the success ratio if they do put someone, grant them parole and they're released, what is that ratio that they never come back into prison? He said about 90% of the time they do the right thing. But okay. There's always going to be the ones like, I promise I won't go back and rob a bank, and then they're back 3 weeks later. So there's a bunch of knuckleheads out there.
Absolutely.
Well, up at the Capitol in Atlanta, the General Assembly is still in session. Now, they had crossover day last Friday. It went late into the night. Today, lawmakers are back in the Capitol, but they're not on the House or Senate floor. They're in committee meetings, but they will resume the session as far as meeting as a group on the Senate side and the House side tomorrow, and the session will wrap up what they call sine die on Thursday, April the 2nd. Speaking of Atlanta, did you hear about the Atlanta Hawks, the NBA team? Well, last night they won their 7th consecutive game.
Good.
The Hawks are a mystery because they'll lose 6, win 7, and then they're just, they're just a
like
mess.
Georgia's weather.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I was just thinking of how could we talk about the weather. Of course, today is beautiful.
Yes.
But, we do the high school football games in the fall, and then after our game of the week, you and Ben have the Walton EMC Operation Roundup, and at the very end of every program, you kind of look back at what was something odd that happened that night, and that was the Who'da Thunk It, I think.
Yes.
The old Who'da Thunk It segment. Well, why don't we have the Who'da Thunk It segment right now, a special edition, the weather.
Okay.
Because have you seen the forecast for next week?
I have not.
It's going to be cold. Cold.
No.
Now, right now, you could lay out by the pool, get a nice tan, get a little breeze going. I think it's like 78. Going to get 80 this afternoon. spring is here, right?
Absolutely.
What'd the groundhog
and
say?
The daffodils are blooming.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything. So now it's just going to freeze and oh no.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing the little squirrels run out in front of my car.
I'm
the birds are chirping, and the
air.
wasp and the little bees they're kind of humming and buzzing around, and then they're going to have to go find shelter next week.
They're going to have to go hibernate for another.
They are, because we could have 4 straight nights in the 30s. You wake up and you may have some frost on your pumpkin, or at least your car windshield. And one night it could actually get below freezing. But it looks like we're going to be upper 30s, and then we're going to be flirting with the 32-degree mark at least one night. Back to the Hawks, though. I forgot.
Yes.
I didn't give you the rest of the story. So I had heard about this, but I didn't know what it was. A promotion. Now, yesterday, the Rock Lobsters crowd told you about the promotions. They would not do a promotion like what the Hawks had planned on doing coming up next week. They had scheduled for March the 16th to have Magic City Night. Now, do you have any idea what Magic City Night?
No, what is that?
Originally I didn't either. Now, they're playing the Orlando Magic that night in Atlanta.
Okay.
I thought it had something to do with the opposition.
Magic.
No. And someone asked me, like, Magic City. I said, Magic City? Is this like, are they promoting some new theme park opening at Universal Studios in Orlando? Like, no. They said Magic City is a strip joint in Atlanta. I'm like, wait a minute. The Hawks are promoting a strip joint or an adult entertainment center in Atlanta at an NBA game? And they said, yeah. Well, they were, but now they're not.
Okay,
because the NBA found out about it, which is interesting, because you would think they would have to run it by the NBA to, like, hey, here's our promotion, and maybe it slipped through the cracks. Well, when they realized, like, no, you ain't going to promote a strip club at your game. So I've got some friends, I need to pray for them, but they are not happy that, because they were going to go. I'm like, well, still go to the game and, enjoy the basketball.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But, leave your dollar bills at home.
So it got the hook, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wouldn't imagine that they would encourage that. Well, I'm glad that the people picked up on that and made changes to that.
It's a family sport.
Exactly. I take my kids to the games.
Yes. Well, this is Jeff Foote. I'm hosting the Marc McMain show today. Hey, we're going to take a break, come back with our first guest. He is a legend in gospel music. I love gospel music. And he and his group are going to be in Morgan County Saturday night.
Oh, exciting.
Stay with us. Find out who this is. We'll be back with more of the Marc McMain Show right after this.
Writing on a legal pad, and the man next to me struck up a conversation. "Are you an author?" he asked. I said, "No, I'm actually a preacher." Well, the look on his face was priceless. How would you feel if you're stuck sitting next to a preacher for several hours? Surprisingly, though, we had a good conversation. He asked me several questions about Jesus, and I told him that the Bible says if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, Christianity is worthless. Ever thought about that? You see, the truthfulness of Christianity hinges on whether Jesus died and rose from the grave. There's great evidence for it, and I'm one of the billions of Christians around the globe who believes that the resurrection really happened. If Jesus did conquer death, then he's worthy of your trust. If he didn't, reject him because he's a fraud. I believe he really conquered death. What do you believe? This is Brian Wright, speaking right from my heart.
For devotions, visit rightfromtheheart.org.
Spring is right around the corner. New beginnings, fresh starts, and big moments. If you're thinking about proposing, if you're ready to take the next step, you go to P&A Jewelers. For 50 years, families have trusted P&A Jewelers to celebrate life's most important milestones. Proudly second-generation, family-owned and operated by brother and sister, we specialize in stunning engagement rings and custom designs made just for you. P&A Jewelers, located at 4665 Atlanta Highway next to Quick Trip in Loganville.
From camp gear to decoys to work tools, a Kubota Sidekick can help carry the load no matter the task at hand. Stop by a dealer today and check out this versatile UTV. Right now, bring home select Kubota equipment for 0 down 2.99% APR for up to 36 months. Now through March 31st. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Your local Kubota dealer is Hayes Tractor, located at 545 Highway 11 in Social Circle. Online at hayestractor.com.
Welcome back to the Marc McMain Show. Jeff Hood sitting in on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon in North Georgia, 12:15 p.m. during your lunch break. And I'll tell you, Chastity, we're coming in hot because our first guest of the day is what I would consider a legend in Southern gospel music. I tell you, I grew up on this type of music, and I just love hearing this man sing and his group, and they are just fabulous. And let's bring him in, the one and only Mike Lefevre. Mike, how are you doing on this Wednesday?
I'm doing great. Good afternoon, everybody.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time to join us. Now, a lot of folks in our listening area love gospel music, Mike, because Sunday morning we dedicate we play country music a lot, but on Sunday morning we kind of kick the country to the side, and we do a lot of gospel music. We got the preaching, so you got the right audience here. So a lot of folks know that you guys are coming to our area this weekend, but the burning question many people have been asking me is, ask Mike about like the family history, because it goes way back. You have deep roots in gospel music.
Right. Well, our family, the original Lefevres, were based out of Atlanta for, my whole life when I was a kid, and years before that. The original Lefevre started in 1921 up in Tennessee, and eventually migrated to Atlanta, Georgia, where they had their Lefevre Sound Studios. They had a Sunday morning television show. They were on WSB radio. They just saturated the area with gospel music down here back in the early days. And so it was my dad's brothers, Alphas and Urias Lefevre, and my Aunt Eva May, and then my cousins Mylon and Pierce, and they were just they were a mainstay in the Atlanta area as far as gospel music. And so when I came along in the early '60s, that was what I loved. I loved gospel music. I loved harmony, and I just knew that was what I wanted to do. And God says He would give you the desires of your heart, and He did that. So I've been able to sing gospel music for many years, and He's always taken care of us.
Well, that's awesome. You do it really well, and I just love the passion, to spread the gospel around the country. And, now some folks may remember before you formed the Mike Lefevre Quartet, you were with some other groups, most notably, probably a lot of folks will remember you from, 25, 30 years ago with the Gold City Quartet.
Right. Of course, the Lefevres had retired before I got old enough to sing with them.
Yeah.
But I had the opportunity several years ago to go with Gold City, and we had a lot of great songs we put out during the time that I was there. The most notable was Midnight Cry.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a great song. But one thing about our music, people that like country music, a lot of people like our style of music because our music is harmony-based. Of course, Christ-based, but harmony-driven. Mm-hmm. And it's got, if you like the Oak Ridge Boys or the Gatlin Brothers or the Statler Brothers, you'll hear a lot of the same type of music with just Christian lyrics. So yeah. It's a lot of people that like country music like our music.
Yeah, you check the boxes for me because I grew up on some Oak Ridge Boys and Statler Brothers, and right in my wheelhouse. So you had the stint with Gold City, and then I guess it was around 2005 you kind of decided to get a group together and kind of tell us how all that came about.
Well, I was at a point in my life where my kids were very young, so I was trying to cut back on traveling and came off the road for a short time. And, of course, that drive inside of me wanted to sing. I just, something I wanted to do. So in 2005, I got a bunch of guys together from the church with the intent of maybe actually 2004, but with the intent of just singing here and there at the church, or maybe go out some Sunday and sing at a church. And God always has other plans, you know. He he did in this case for me. And here we are 21 years later, and we're traveling about 180 days a year now.
Wow.
So we're staying pretty busy, and we last week, as a matter of fact, we just got off the trip. We took this weekend off since we were traveled so far, but we were in California last week. So our music, it covers a lot of ground, covers a lot of different people, and so it's not just for one denomination. Our music covers a lot of the Christian-based people that go to church wherever they go to church, and so it's a wide reach. So you're bound to like something. People that come hear us, they if they want to hear the harmony, it's there. If they want to hear the low bass or the high tenor, it's there. You know, so we cover a gambit. And we have a lot of up tempo and a lot of heartfelt. Some of our music kind of crosses over into a progressive style music as well. So we cover a little bit of everything.
Now, I know you are thrilled that your son Jordan is able to stand beside you on stage, because he was kind of helping in the background for many years, but then when there was an opening, it was, I guess, an easy transition for him to jump in. And honestly, you know, me just being just somebody that keeps up with it, he's just doing a fabulous job.
You know, I call him a natural. He was one of those guys that he started off, I remember when he was just a kid sitting up hearing him play the drums, and he wasn't too good, and I would hear him every day because my recliner was right there by the steps that went down to the basement, and I could hear him getting better and better and better, and so he became, when the group needed a drummer, he became our drummer, and then as any job would have it, once you get that job done, you have to learn other tasks, and so he eventually became the sound engineer and the bus driver, and then he's been our lead singer for several years now. He's got a natural ear for harmony, and he's got a good level head on his shoulders, and loves the Lord with all his heart. Man, just all the right things, you know. Yeah,
well, you can really tell it when you hear him sing. I mean, he's just pouring his heart out, worshiping Christ, and I tell you that one song, "All the Praise," is just, you've got to see it to experience it, and you can just feel the Holy Spirit. And I think that song went to number one, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of years ago. Yeah,
it was the number one song. It sure was. And you know, it's great though too, as a father, seeing, you know, when I step back and I see my son step up there to the front to take the lead in a song, and I know his heart, and I know that he carries. There's a lot of weight singing lead for a group, and he does a great job, man. I'm very proud. As a father, I'm proud, but as a Christian, I'm proud to see young people stepping up to the plate. You know?
Oh, yeah. Now, Mike, Jordan and really the other guys in your group, they're fairly young, and you know, we've seen the last year or so kind of a movement with the younger people, this younger generation that is turning to Christ. You know, maybe the late Charlie Kirk had something to do with that, but there just seems to be an awakening. And you know, you've got so many young guys in your group. Are you starting to see at the venues you go to, or are you starting to see more young people that are showing up?
Well, I am predominantly, of course. We got I would say 45 and up is a typical age, but I'm seeing a lot of young people that are getting into the music. In fact, we just hired a new pianist. He's 19 years old.
Wow.
And he absolutely loves this music. He loves it, and I love that. And, of course, my bass singer's 35, and Jordan's 34, and our tenor singer's 33. So in the mid-30s there, and then we've got a 19-year-old pianist. And so there's a lot of young blood that's starting to come into this and realizing what good music it is. You know, it's not, you don't hear it as much at churches as you used to when I was young. So I think younger people, and with the internet and everything, are starting to discover this and say, wow, where did this come from?
Yeah.
And so that's one place where the internet has been a good influence, you know, to introduce our music to a lot broader audience than we've actually got a good following in Brazil because of the internet. We've never been to Brazil, but we've got a lot. I send a lot of product over there, and it's amazing. You know, you just don't realize who's watching. That's a good lesson. You never know who's watching.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it's important not only if you're, you know, attending your church or going to something like that's going to happen in our area Saturday night, what I call a good old gospel sing. We want to see more young people attend because I think, you know, they're going to find the truth and they're going to find a place to plug in. But you know, as long as they're just out worshiping, because they're the future of this country.
Right, and I love that's another thing. I think if the younger people, when they give this music an opportunity, this music that we do, I call it just gospel, but some people call it Southern gospel, whatever you want to call it. It's very heartfelt. It's not a generic music. It's I call it meat music, heart music. All the songs have got great messages. Some are fun, more fun, but all of them are and especially the songs we pick, we try to make sure everything is scripturally sound. And so they're liking it. They're drawing to it. So I think when they give it a chance, they're going, okay, this is all right. And, of course, our seniors, they love it still, too.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Well, folks in our listening area, you are going to have a chance to see the Mike Lefevre Quartet this Saturday at 6 o'clock at Rutledge Baptist Church in Rutledge, Georgia. And, Mike, have you ever been to Rutledge, Georgia?
I'm sure I've passed through it a time or two.
Okay. It's pretty small, but I tell you, it's just on the outskirts of Metro Atlanta. Covington's very close. That's a big city. And it's right on Interstate 20. So, you know, all roads lead to Rutledge, especially this Saturday. And I tell you, a lot of people are buzzing that the Mike Lefevre Quartet is going to be down in Morgan County in Rutledge. And I'm planning on being there. I've had a bunch of folks tell me they're going to go. And I think it's just going to be a wonderful evening. And I tell you, we cannot wait to see you guys on Saturday.
Well, we're excited about being there. And an invitation from me, whoever, we'd love to have you. And it's going to be a great time. And we're going to sing the glory down.
Absolutely. Senior saints, and especially those young guys and gals, because we want to see them, because I love seeing those young folks come and worship the Lord. So, again,
absolutely.
Saturday night, 6 o'clock, Rutledge Baptist Church in Rutledge, Georgia, and we hope to see you there. And, Mike, thanks so much, and, man, we'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Thank you, Jeff. Look forward to seeing you.
All right. That has been Mike Lefevre of the Mike Lefevre Quartet. I am Jeff Hood, and it is 12:27 during your lunch break on Wednesday afternoon, and you are listening to the Marc McMain Show. We got another guest coming up, and she is a trailblazer. You are going to have to stay tuned to find out about this next guest coming up here on Q92.3.
Are you looking for new tires? Well, look no further than Madison Car Care. They have the largest selection, and you'll always get the best price. They also handle a wide range of auto repairs, from the small things like oil changes and wiper blades to the big things like suspension, parts, and radiators. They offer all kinds of accessories, from toolboxes to bed covers, side steps, and they even install those awesome ranch hand bush guards. Give them a call at 706-342-4774 or stop by at 1040 Confederate Road in Madison.
Sometimes you can outgrow personal touch. Businesses are designed to do that, and sometimes businesses take quality over character. At Loganville Ford, we have a very rich history of integrity passed down through generations. Since 1961, Loganville Ford has been taking care of our community. That's what we do. We take care of you and your family. We have been family-driven, family-owned, and family-operated from the start, pushing families forward since 1961. Come see us at Loganville Ford, where people still matter. See us on Highway 78 in Loganville or LoganvilleFord.com.
Spring is in the air, and that means baby chicks are coming to Boss Brothers Country Store. Starting mid-March through the end of April, we'll have baby chicks arriving in-store. Whether you're a first-time chicken owner or adding to your coop, Boss Brothers has everything you need. Our knowledgeable team is here to help every step of the way, from chicken selection to coop setup. Visit us at 3084 Highway 78 in Loganville. Boss Brothers Country Store. Quality products, trusted brands, and hometown service you can count on.
Affordable housing is just around the corner at Cimarron Park. Cimarron Park is a mobile community located on Harry Arnold Road, just off of Highway 78 in Monroe, that offers 2- and 3-bedroom homes with spacious wooded lots, lit streets, and a family-friendly atmosphere. Some homes are for sale with available financing. Call James for all the details. 404-401-1068. That's 404-401-1068. Or go to CimarronPark.com.
Are you looking for new tires? Well, look no further than Madison Car Care. They have the largest selection, and you'll always get the best price. They also handle a wide range of auto repairs, from the small things like oil changes and wiper blades to the big things like suspension, parts, and radiators. They offer all kinds of accessories, from toolboxes to bed covers, side steps, and they even install those awesome ranch hand bush guards. Give them a call at 706-342-4774 or stop by at 1040 Confederate Road in Madison.
Sometimes you can outgrow personal touch. Businesses are designed to do that, and sometimes businesses take quality over character. At Loganville Ford, we have a very rich history of integrity passed down through generations. Since 1961, Loganville Ford has been taking care of our community. That's what we do. We take care of you and your family. We have been family-driven, family-owned, and family-operated from the start, pushing families forward since 1961. Come see us at Loganville Ford, where people still matter. See us on Highway 78 in Loganville or LoganvilleFord.com.
From Camp. Welcome back to the Marc McMain Show. We are still trying to get in touch with our guest. Let's see. I think she's going to dial in here in just a minute. And looks like she has called in, and Chastity's trying to get her on the board. Again, this is Jeff Foote sitting in for Marc McMain, who is out on assignment on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. And let me tell you who we're trying to get in touch with, and that is Deb Williams. If you follow NASCAR, you have probably seen that name at some point. In fact, I think we've got her on the line. All right. One of my dear friends, I've known her for several years, just a fabulous person, an award-winning motorsports journalist, and a trailblazer. We're going to find out what kind of trailblazer, and that is Deb Williams. Deb, how are you doing on this Wednesday afternoon?
Just fine, thank you. How about yourself?
I am doing great, and I am so glad to hear your voice because, I grew up a NASCAR fan, and I tell you, what makes NASCAR is you can watch people say their car's going around in a circle. Well, somebody's got to tell you the story, the back side of the story, and you have been one of the just unbelievable storytellers for decades about what makes these drivers tick, what happens behind the scenes. And but before we get to that, we want to have you tell the folks, how in the world did you get involved as a motorsports journalist? And I kind of know the story, but I want to hear it from you, back to when you were just a child in North Carolina.
Okay, well, Mother and Daddy were going to races when Mother was pregnant with me, and the only place they could get me to quit crying and sleep till I was a year old was in the infield under the loudspeaker at Asheville-Weaverville when it was dirt.
Wow.
And then where I grew up in western North Carolina, in Canton, North Carolina, paper mill town, 18 miles west of Asheville, two things mattered in the town, and that was cars and football.
There you go.
And our whole family was really into it. Daddy loved cars, and my cousin, and also a lot of people may remember Bosco Lowe. They were in high school with my sister, and Bosco went the racing route, and Gene Barnett, my cousin, went the show car route. And when they were and teenagers and a little older, they had a club there in western North Carolina called the Asphalt Gladiators. And the purpose of the club was to teach people about car maintenance, and if somebody was stranded on the highway, they would help them, and they always sponsored the car show every Labor Day. But there was a couple who was in high school with my parents named Frank and Hilda Presley, and Frank Presley ran a body shop at the foot of the Canton Hill, which is what we call the hill after you came out of Canton going to Asheville on 1923. And for 2 years, I believe it was 58 and 59, he fielded a car for Ralph Earnhardt. And so Ralph's car would be down there at the body shop.
Yeah.
And one day, I was a daddy's girl, so I grew up around ball fields and car garages and horse shows and service stations. And I was down there one day with Daddy, and he was talking to Frank about something, and I walked over when Frank would work on the people's cars during the day, he would push the race car out front. And I was out there, and I can remember standing on the passenger side of Ralph's car and putting my hands on it and pulling myself up and looking inside of it. And I thought, man, that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I was in love with race cars then. And so, we all in our family had favorite drivers on Mother's side of the family. And Jean Barnett's sister, Darlene, her favorite driver was Fireball Roberts.
Oh, yeah.
And so I loved writing. I used to sit around and write short stories. So I decided when I was 13 years old that I wanted to be a motorsports writer. Well, I kind of had to change that and say be a sports writer, preferably a motorsports writer, because there were several different routes I had to take before I got to focus on motorsports full-time. But
right.
That was my objective since the time I was 13.
Okay, so you had a love for the sport. You knew the sport. You were learning to write. And then tell us what happens when you kind of fast forward into the 70s and you want to actually get involved. Something kind of odd that today we would think, how could that possibly have been the case back then? But what kind of barrier did you run into?
Oh, that was after... it was interesting. I didn't have a barrier when I was covering the weekly races at Asheville Motor Speedway. Mm-hmm. And then when I went with United Press International and started covering NASCAR Cup racing, and they sent me to Darlington to cover a race at Darlington in 1980. And I go to pick up my press credential. There wasn't any such thing then as annual credentials, or we call them hard cards.
Right.
And when I picked it up, printed on my press credential was no women allowed in pits.
In 1980?
1980.
Wow.
And so I lost my Irish, Cherokee, Dutch heritage temper.
I can imagine.
In the press box.
Yeah.
And it was funny because the person who was assisting the PR director that weekend in the press box, when I lit in on him and he's looking at me and he said, "We're not talking about women like you. We're not talking about women like you." But that was the last time it was on that credential, and that was the only credential that I ever saw that on.
Yeah.
But that was 1980. It really caught me off guard, and then since then I have learned that at some tracks, and not cup tracks, but at some tracks in the Northeast and all, there were credentials that said, "No women or dogs allowed in pits."
Wow. That's interesting.
And there was one woman in the 1970s, I can't recall her name right off now, but I never knew her, unfortunately, but I've heard her stories, where there was a short track, and I believe it was in New Jersey, mm-hmm. where they made her go to her doctor every week to get a note saying that she was not pregnant before they would allow her to come into the pits.
Oh, my gosh. It's interesting what the mindset was. So you Darlington, what you told us about no women allowed in the pit. So you kind of get through that, but you were one of the very few women, the first probably as a journalist. But so how long did it take to develop the relationships and earn the respects of respect of not only the NASCAR people, but the competitors, the crew chiefs, the crew guys, and the drivers?
Well, it's interesting you ask that, because it was like you would think you were making headway, and then something would happen, and it was like one step forward, two steps back. And just as you earned the respect of the people of that particular generation, then you had a generation change, and you kind of had to start all over again. But the things that helped considerably was, number one, I was with an international wire service. So the fact that I was working for United Press International, that helped give me the credibility for those people in the executive positions and issuing credentials and all that. And because back then we only had the Associated Press and United Press International that covered the world, with stories, and everybody wanted that. So that was there. And then the fact that, we didn't have, the only time you had a press conference back in the 80s was if somebody was announcing where they were going the next year to drive, or you had a sponsor announcement. But if the post-race interviews, if you wanted to talk to somebody, you either met them at the gas pumps, which is where the top 5 went, or the top 3, or you chased them down as they were going to their transporter or getting out of their car. You met them in the garage, and it wasn't as organized as it is now.
Yeah.
And you didn't have lounges in the front of the haulers. That's where they transported the engines. So if you wanted to talk to somebody, you either sat on the back of the transporter or sat on tires and talked to them. And the fact that the veteran motorsports writers would let them, like, if you wanted to talk to somebody lots of times, they knew that if, say, 3 to 6 reporters went to them, they were more apt to talk to you than if one reporter tried to tag them.
Got it.
And so we might go in a group, and the fact that the veteran motorsports writers would let me go with them, that helped give credibility. The fact that Linda Petty had known me for a while, Richard Petty's wife, and Linda was president of the Winston Cup Racing Wives Auxiliary when I came in, and my first speed weeks that I covered, I went over the Wives Auxiliary used to always have a fashion show across the street at the Volusia Mall at Burdine's. And I had gone over there to do an interview with Dick Brooks' wife. And when Linda Petty goes, "Oh, I've known Debbie since she was just this high." Well, that immediately gave me credibility with the wives and the girlfriends. It was okay, she's not here to take our husbands or whatever. And she's not interested in them.
Yeah.
And then the fact that Richard Petty would stop and talk to me in the garage, that was a leading force, too, in that, well, if Richard Petty will stop and talk to her, then she must be okay.
Yeah, the king is a stamp of approval from him. It doesn't get any higher than that. So Deb, when did you start seeing some other females that suddenly, just appeared to start covering NASCAR?
Well, the only one that I ever saw, my first Speed Weeks was 1984, and Sandy McGee with the Baltimore Sun.
Mm-hmm.
She was originally from West Virginia, so we had the mountain, we were there, we were able to talk Mountainese, so to speak.
Yeah.
But Sandy would come cover the Daytona 500, and I wouldn't see her anymore until, because then she would go cover Indy cars. So until I started going to Pocono and Dover, I saw Sandy McKee once a year at Daytona, and because then she would go to Indy cars. So that would have been 84 and on up. And then I want to say in the late 80s, early 90s, the late 80s, we had Beth Tushak, who had left the Detroit paper and gone to USA Today. And in the late 80s, I was freelancing with USA Today while I was working full-time at Griggs Publishing with Scene. And when we got to 600 Memorial Day weekend, Beth would write the Indy 500 side of USA Today's package, and I would write the NASCAR side of USA Today's package. It always had a Memorial Day racing weekend package on that Friday before Memorial Day. And then we had, there was another woman at the, Chagrice was her last name, Angelique, at the Detroit paper.
I remember Angelique, yes.
Angelique took over at the Detroit paper when Beth left and went to USA Today. But, you know, really, there wasn't that many women until we got into the 90s. There was basically Sandy and Angelique and Beth and me.
Yeah. Well, the door was starting to open. So we're talking to Deb Williams, an award-winning motorsports, primarily NASCAR, but other forms of motorsports journalist. And we're going to take a quick break, come back, and hear the rest of the story, what Deb experienced when NASCAR exploded, and then a prestigious award that she just received recently. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show on Q92.3.
Hey, this is Doug.
And this is Robbie.
We own and operate Foy Tree Service.
When you need tree cutting, stump grinding, lot clearing, mulching, firewood, and more, call Foy Tree Service.
Serving Morgan County and surrounding area since 1987.
With top quality service and fair prices, we take pride in our work, and we do everything to make sure that you are a happy customer.
That's Foy Tree Service. Call us at 706-342-8733.
That's 706-342-TREE.
Make sure your diesel is ready for every season by stopping in at Leadfoot Diesel. Their technicians have many years of combined experience to keep your Cummins, Power Stroke, and Duramax running the way it should. Plus, they can improve fuel mileage, perform upgrades, AC repair, and they offer tires, wheels, lift kits, and more. Diesel owners from all over the country trust Leadfoot Diesel, 320 Mayfield Drive in Monroe. Stop in or go to leadfootdiesel.com.
Roll-Off Systems of Statham, they're on a roll. They offer dumpsters in all sizes, trash compactors, porta potties, and new combo cans. Existing sites are new building sites. Trash and waste disposal, it's their business. Locally owned and operated. Call Roll-Off Systems today. 770-725-ROLL. That's 770-725-ROLL. Or go to rolloffsystems.com.
I've got to tell you about the best kept secret in Monroe for electric wholesale supply, Allen's Electric. Family owned and operated since 1972, Allen's Electric offers a complete line of electrical supply, wiring, breakers, bulbs, heating elements, electric motors, light fixtures, and so much more. Located at 925 West Spring Street in Monroe, stop by and see Brian and Cindy, in business for over 50 years. That's Allen Electric Supply, 770-267-5572.
Welcome back to the Marc McMain Show. Jeff Hood sitting in, and we're talking to Deb Williams, who is a trailblazing motorsports journalist. Now, she told us, kind of back in 1980, she went to Darlington, South Carolina, and, her credentials said no women allowed. And so let's fast forward. The sport is really starting to explode. It went from a regional sport to a national sport. You've got Earnhardt in his prime. Here comes the Wonder Boy, Jeff Gordon. What was that era like for you? Because you were immersed in the middle of it, telling all these great stories.
It was a whirlwind, and I've reflected back on it recently. And with the late hours that I was pulling because we were switching to night races at that time, and from 1993 through 2003, I was the editor of NASCAR Winston-Cutscene, and we grew during that time to be the largest auto racing newspaper in this country. We drew, when I took over as editor, I think we were maybe at 70,000, and we grew to 140,000 circulation. We were weekly, and then we had a pass-along rate as well. And by that, I mean, people might read it and pass along to a relative or a coworker or a neighbor. Mm-hmm. And our pass-along rate was putting it at 200,000 to 300,000. So it was just putting that paper out every week and traveling. I was traveling 27 to 30 races a year. It hit before 9/11 when the sky caps were used and all. It got, particularly during the summer when I might be home a day and a half or 2 days, the sky caps at U.S. Air at Charlotte Douglas knew my car. And not only did they know my car, but the person at long-term parking that drove the shuttle got to where she knew Tom Higgins, Steve Wade, and myself. Mm-hmm. And one day I was running late, and when I caught the shuttle, she looked at me and she said, "You're late today because your two friends have already gone." And I said, "Yeah, I know, I'm running late." But you're traveling a lot, and I would come back at the end of the season and look around at my house and go, "Well, that's good. You're still standing. The roof's not leaking. That's good." But yeah, it was a real whirlwind. There was one time of Pocono Race Week. I had gone into work at the office at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I left at like 4 the next morning. Ooh. And I had to catch an early flight to Pocono, and because we could get a direct flight from Charlotte to Allentown, Pennsylvania. And I drove home to take a shower and pack my suitcase, and there was a little grill where I turned to go to my house, and I stopped in there, and I told the fella, I said, "Look, I've got to go home, take a shower, pack, and then I got to leave for the airport. I want a bologna and egg sandwich, and I'll pick it up on the way back." And he said, "Okay, I'll have it ready for you." So I went on to the house, took a shower, packed my suitcase, got in the car, went back, picked up my sandwich, ate it on the way to the airport. And when I got, we're talking about now, this is when I'm usually asleep on the plane before they ever finish boarding.
Yeah.
And I get to Allentown, drive to Pocono, and I get checked into the hotel, and it was like, okay, am I going to go eat dinner tonight or am I going to sleep? That was one night I bypassed dinner to sleep.
Yeah. Well, that's a tough lifestyle. People think, oh, that's glamorous, but, I did that a couple of years myself, and when you're on the road like 28, 30 weekends out of the year, it becomes just difficult, for sure. Let me ask you this, Deb, because you have been in the sport, I guess, over 4 decades. When you look back, and maybe even current, but probably more so back in the past, is there one or two, maybe a driver or a crew chief that you look back that was kind of, the relationship, the respect, and your go-to person, where you look back and you just cherish, that friendship?
I can't just point to one.
Who would be a couple, maybe, of the many?
Well, the fact that Dale Earnhardt liked to tease me. If Dale Earnhardt didn't like you, he didn't tease you.
Yeah.
He didn't pick on you. But, gosh, Dale Earnhardt, Dale Inman, Richard Petty, Tim Brewer. It's, I don't want to, those are the ones that come to my mind initially, but it's interesting because a lot of them, like Donnie and Pat Allison and I got to be friends more after Donnie stopped driving than when he was driving.
Yeah.
And Donnie is actually the one who encouraged me to get my knees replaced when I was having knee problems. Donnie kept pushing me to do that. So there's been different stages of friendship, like with the Bodines, and it's nice to be able. I just finished serving as the president of the National Motorsports Press Association, and when I would send out the invitation for the NMPA Hall of Fame, there was always one person that would pick up the phone and call me a RSVP. Wouldn't send it as a text, wouldn't send it as email, but it was Waddell Wilson.
Yeah.
And I know I can call Waddell Wilson if I have any questions. Before Robert Yates passed, and this was another thing that goes to the credibility, is because I've always been a gearhead.
Oh, yeah.
And, I love the mechanics of the car and everything about it. In fact, I had a veteran motorsports journalist tell me in the 1980s, he said, you probably know more about these race cars than any other reporter out here. And, Robert Yates, every time Ford came out with a new cylinder head or whatever, Robert would explain to me why it was better. And because my dad was a machinist, Robert even let me bring my dad to Robert Yates Racing one weekend when they were here for Thanksgiving to meet James Luter because he was their machinist, and Daddy and Luter got to have a nice conversation. So, I can still, if I have a question about an engine or whatever, I can still pick up the phone and call Doug Yates. And it's just a relationship through the years and my love of cars. And like I said, I've always been a gearhead.
Yeah. Well, NASCAR is such a family sport, and you kind of expressed that in what you experienced. But the final question I have for you, let's kind of put the bow on this. Just a distinguished career covering NASCAR and some other forms of motorsports, but recently, and this was announced in 25, but I guess it was earlier this year, you received the Squire Hall Award at the NASCAR Hall of Fame ceremony, and that is a prestigious award. What did it mean to you to be recognized and given that award?
It's still unbelievable when I think of it. And it's like I said that night, the contributions that Ken Squire and Barney Hall, for whom the award is named, the contributions they made to the sports, immeasurable. And I learned a lot from both of them. But to me, that award is the Mount Everest of motorsports journalism awards. And I feel like by receiving that award, I got to the peak of my profession.
Well, it's you have been a credit to the sport in more ways than you will ever know. I will tell you, when back in the day you mentioned Winston Cup scene, I was a longtime subscriber, so that's how I first knew your name. And but gosh, what an all-star lineup, and you were right there in the mix. And Deb, what's amazing, you're still out there covering the sport. If folks want to follow you, tell us about the publication or website that you're writing for, and how they can follow you on social media.
Well, actually, thank you for bringing that up. It's people who will remember the magazine Auto Week. Auto Week is still around, but it's a website now, and it's autoweek.com. And if you click on the racing part of autoweek.com, you can see my NASCAR stories. I was at the Gator Nationals at the NHRA this past weekend. Had lunch yesterday with Ron Capps and Matty Gordon. And, so you can go to autoweek.com, or you can follow me on X or Twitter, whichever way you want to refer to it, at Deb Williams 72.
Awesome. Well, Deb, thank you so much for not only being on the show today and kind of giving our listeners kind of an insight on your career, but, thank you for what you've done for not only NASCAR, but motorsports in general.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me, and thank you for being such a good friend. I miss seeing you in Atlanta.
Well, hopefully I'll see you in just a few weeks, because I'm going to go to some races, and I will find you. So that has been Deb Williams, and she is just an amazing journalist in motorsports, and she did win that award we talked about, the Ken Squire Barney Hall Award, and that's a big deal, believe me. So, Chastity, thank you. We had a spectacular show today. The Lefevre Quartet coming to Rutledge this weekend, and stay up with your NASCAR news at Deb Williams 72 on X or Twitter, or autoweek.com. And there you go.
On.
Yeah.
I bet she's not scared to get her hands dirty.
She's
whatsoever.
Not. She is not.
I could tell.
I love Deb Williams, and just love the story of just how she got involved and knock down those barriers to kind of lead the way for females to be welcome in the garage and as journalists in NASCAR.
She set the foundation.
She really did.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, this is Jeff Hood, and thank you so much for joining us today on the Marc McMain Show.
And tune in tomorrow for the Marc McMain Show, because we will have our own Charlie Morgan with guest host Miss Barbara Mock with Tutu Capers, and Madison with the Mad Fit Gym. She is the owner and the trainer, so looking forward to that. So see you all tomorrow on the Marc McMain Show.